How you doing? My name's Jason. I'm in central Minnesota. I decided to do a podcast, so here we go. I don't really have a plan, but it's something I've always wanted to do. My son had started one a couple of years ago, and he does one on politics, and he does book reviews, and I thought that was pretty neat. And of course, I watch them all the time, and I just always thought it was pretty neat. I've gotten some friends over the years that do different podcasts, and some do TikTok and whatever, and I just kind of always wanted to do it. I never really had a place at home where I could, but my son moved away from home, and I ended up with a nice little place for an office. And he had bought all this stuff, or I had bought it for him a long time ago, a microphone and that sort of thing. And so I just set myself up, and it's been sitting in a closet for a long time. I recently just did some go-kart videos because I have a go-kart track here, and kind of, do some tutorial videos for that. And of course, I found my nifty background, the least expensive one they had. Well, the flag wasn't the least expensive, but just an inexpensive background to cover up where we do puzzles, and my 3D printer and whatever. My dog, oh, you can't see him. He's right here. He's Milo. I got a picture of him here, though, that I could probably show. Oh, no, not that one. And I'm using StreamYard, which I've only used twice. Anyways, my idea behind this show, there's Milo. That's my little puppy. Anyways, my idea behind this podcast was just to talk about stuff, talk about fun things, maybe talk about UFOs, talk about motorsports. I don't really want to talk about politics. I think there's enough people doing that, but it'd probably come up because it affects us all. I like drinking my coffee. I drink iced coffee now. I quit drinking. I don't drink pop. I quit drinking it 3 years ago, and so I just drink iced coffee. I start out with regular coffee, and then I go into my iced coffee for the rest of the day. Anyhow, my idea is I would like to do, at some point, I want to have guests on and do interviews and just get people's different perspectives from different people. I thought doing a call-in show would be pretty neat. I started listening to Art Bell when I was like 15 or 16 years old. And let's see. This is newer, but it was just the greatest show ever. And then later in life, what I had to do, back in the day.
From the high desert and the great American Southwest, I bid you all good evening, good morning, good afternoon, as the case may be, around the world. Each and every time zone covered like.
Anyways, what I had to do, I was like, 16 at the time. I had to use two radios, and you'd put a tape in one radio, and you had your other radio, and then Art Bell's show started. I don't remember, it was midnight or something, and so I'd set my alarm to wake me up so I could turn Art Bell on the radio and hit record on the other radio. So you had one radio here that was playing Art Bell. This radio here had your cassette in it, and that's the one that recorded it. And then I'd hit record. I'd fall back asleep. The next day after I got home from school or anything, I'd take my tape out of the one radio and flip it around, and I could listen to the Art Bell show. I did that for years. And then later in life, when I was in my 20s, I plowed snow, actually 18 through 20s. But so in the middle of the night, I'd have my headphones on and my radio, and I used a Walkman back then. And in the middle of the night snow plowing, you'd just listen to Art Bell. And I always said it was really neat. His format was really cool to me because he would just let people talk. he would, no matter how insane the person might be, oh, you go out and you eat, for instance, the guess would be, oh, I live on eating wood. I go up to a tree and I just gnaw on it. And Art Bell wouldn't call him names or be judgmental. He'd ask questions. He'd be like, well, how does that wood taste to you? Do you like the wood? Do you crave the wood? Do you put any salt and pepper on the wood? And just let the guests talk and tell their story. And it was up to the listener to use your own discernment as to whether or not you believed them or not. And I always thought that was neat. He just kind of let it go, and he always asked great questions and listened to them. And then kind of lost track of them for a long time. And then he had a big comeback deal on some satellite. I don't remember. He had Heather Wade working for him or with him. She was his producer, I think. And this was back, I don't know, 2014, 2015, somewhere in there. And I finally decided, it was a lot of money at the time for one radio show I wanted to listen to, but I got a subscription to the satellite radio service, whichever one it was that Art was on, so I could listen to the Art Bell show again. And it was awesome. He had a show, and it was just like I had remembered it. And I started listening to it every night again. Sometimes Heather Wade would fill in for him, and she was quite good. She did a really good job, I thought. And that lasted about 3 months. He had some sort of a dispute, and he quit. And it really pissed me the fuck off because he quit, and I was stuck with this stupid subscription that I mean, it's going to sound like not that much money, but it was like $40 a month. But back in 2015, for an extra service for one radio show, it was a lot. And they always had, back then, if you canceled a subscription to something, you always had to pay like a cancellation fee. So you'd end up paying, if you're paying $40 a month and you're on a 2-year subscription or whatever it might be, they'd try to make you pay. They didn't try. They made you pay, $150 or $200 to cancel that subscription. So it was really kind of a shitty deal. But anyways, then unfortunately, as we all know, Art Bell ended up passing away, and Heather Wade tried carrying on the show, but I think she was a little emotionally unstable, and that didn't work out so well. She ended up quitting, and I don't ever know whatever happened to her. Other than that, after that, there just hasn't been, I listen to Coast AM. They do a pretty good job. But I'm more of nowadays I'm more of a subject guy. I'll listen to podcasts that I like a specific subject of, whether it be Bob Lazar or UFOs or specific things or specific political things. And so sometimes these shows, they don't list what their topic is, even though they might be a conspiracy show or whatever. They don't list what their topic is for the night. And sometimes they don't even list a guest. And I don't even waste my time listening to it, just because I'd rather listen to something I know I'm going to have a chance of liking. But my little show here, I'm not going to do any big dives into anything. It's more like I just want to have a conversation with people and talk about things going on in the world, talk about other, what do you like to do for fun? I race go-karts. I build shit, 3D print, whatnot. But talk to people and see, there's a lot of cool people out there. And I was going to start with some of my friends and talk about the different things that they enjoy doing. And some of the things that I like doing, and probably talk about some daily news items, that we'll probably do right now. What do we got here? I'm just going to go over to X, kind of scroll through. Liz, some bitch I know, she does some deep dives. We've had a lot of things going on in Minnesota lately with the ice here. and with ice here and doing that whole thing. Walter Hudson, he's a state rep, good guy. I guess I'm not used to scrolling through social media while I'm being recorded, so maybe this isn't the ideal thing to do now. But that was kind of my idea, is that I could go through and look at different things and we could talk about them. I guess maybe we'll talk about some things that I actually like. Sorry, I'm doing this right now. Some current things that I like reading and listening to. So the other thing I enjoy is ancient. Anyway, I just recently found this guy, Matt Morris TV. He does an excellent job. He kind of goes through and does all the daily news stuff. Talks about everything with what I call a real perspective, common sense. And he's pretty regular on his shows. He has his day show and then an evening show, and seems to do a really good job. I really do enjoy his show. This guy is Archaix, Archaix. And this guy is super, super interesting. He, how do I explain this? He's a chronologist. He spent 25 years in prison for something he did when he was 17 years old. And he started reading, and he never stopped reading. And then he started keeping track of everything and noticed patterns. And his, I think he's read and extracted data from like 1,400 books and put it all the events in human history in chronological order. It's absolutely fascinating. It puts some pieces together that I've been wondering about for a really, really, really long time, and he nailed it. Let's talk about this video. I had this one pulled up. I can't recommend this video enough. We all know who Vlad the Impaler is. He has this video in memory of Vlad Walchicha. This is such an information-packed video. Everybody should watch it. It's just unbelievable. But anyways, he has, just hundreds and hundreds of videos on every subject you can imagine. I don't think there's a greater chronologist on the face of the planet. Up until about 5 months ago, I had watched every one of his videos repeatedly, but he puts out an awful lot of videos. Now you can start to see where I've watched them all, but it's just the amount of information that this guy has is more than you can ever consume in a lifetime. I don't agree with him on everything. He is a simulation guy and thinks space is fake and all of that. And maybe he's right. I don't know. But I don't necessarily agree with everything. But if you're interested in the Earth's history and pyramids and need a different perspective, something that you haven't heard of, this guy is unbelievable. So I actually don't listen to him regularly anymore, but I sure spent a lot of time listening to him. The Dark Journalist, I listen to him once in a while. I don't particularly like his style, and I'm pretty particular about who I listen to. His shows tend to go kind of slow for me, and even if I speed up the YouTube, I just have a tough time listening to him, although his information is generally really, really good. X22 report. I don't listen to him anymore. I used to, and think what you want about all of that stuff. I just don't care for him anymore. He seems to be too abstract. AJ Gentile with the Y files. Let me see if I can find that. Oh, helps if I type it correctly. Oh, I guess it doesn't care. The Y files. I actually came across him accidentally. He was I had looking for a different podcast to listen to, and this one was recommended. And I tried listening to. I mean, you can see he's quite popular. 5.6 million subscribers, and he has this thing, this Hecklefish, which I guess I'll play you a little bit of this, maybe.
Speckled with a Milky Way. Planet a symphony. Mother Nature's most expansion has a mouthful of bright. Hecklefish doesn't react well to attempts at.
Nah, that's dumb. Anyways, the Hecklefish is a little sideshow character that he often has with him. Maybe it'll pull up on here.
Minute or two, 15 minutes.
You can kind of see he's over here called Hecklefish right there. And they kind of have a back and forth. Well, when I first started listening to him, I just found I just thought it was dumb. And I found the voice of the Hecklefish to be irritating, and I couldn't do it. I tried listening to an episode, and I just couldn't do it. I have to turn it off. Well, that was a few months ago. Now I kind of like the dumb Hecklefish, and I think it brings a lot to his videos and brings some entertainment and is rather enjoyable. But this guy really does his homework, this Y-Files. He dives into every subject, from the Templars to the pyramids to the moon landing, and in my opinion, he does a very thorough job of explaining the conspiracy, and then at the end of the videos, he tends to explain why or why not he thinks that there may be some truth to whatever the main subject was. So he does a really good job. I've been listening to him lately. Joe Rogan, I don't listen to him. Is he on here? Joe Rogan, there he is. I don't listen to his show every day. This is another one of those things where I only like specific subjects. And Joe Rogan, he has everybody from fighters to, I did enjoy the one with Elon Musk and Trump and a few others. I was looking for one of them, but there's the one with Elon Musk. And then, of course, the Bob Lazar one. I think that's his most popular video ever. Yep, there it is. 65 million views on that. But I like Joe's style. I think his questioning and everything, he brings not only entertainment, but he asks questions like everyday people would ask, and I just think it's pretty good format. I can understand why he's the most popular podcaster in the history of it. He just does an excellent job. His questions are good. He's intelligent enough to come up with decent questions, and then he pushes people where he needs to. So I don't know. That's then I could get into the political ones that I listen to, other than Matt Morris, but I don't really see the point in doing that. Again, I just thought I wanted to do this podcast, and I wasn't really sure what to do it about. I'd eventually like to have guests. I don't have any guests right now. This is my very first podcast. I don't even know how a lot of this stuff works. It's my first time setting up my background. third time using this microphone and this camera, and I thought I would just sit down here, make a video, and see how it goes. And I can't have a podcast of my own if I'm not making a podcast. Anyways, I'd like to thank you for watching, and if you have any show ideas, drop them in the comments. And I think we got Milo. Milo's back here napping. Where's Milo? Picture of him. He's back behind me napping, and we're going to wrap this up. And eventually I'd like to do live videos. This one, I'm recording this one. I didn't really know how. I want to get more familiar with StreamYard and how all of this stuff works. I plan on doing videos once a week. I have no ideas. I'm going to try to come up with a subject each week and then have an hour to that subject. When I have guests, I hope to be doing 2 hours. And we'll see. Anyways, thanks for watching. Even if you didn't like it, if you could hit that like button, that would be great. Even if you think I'm the biggest retard on the face of the planet, if you could hit subscribe, that would be awesome, because I'm just going to send this out into the internet world and we'll see what happens. Thank you.